this race for me, it was like a perfect combo. It pushed us big time. For me, it pushed me probably more than any event I've ever done. Well, not probably, definitely. And, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But the fact that we were in the Alps, the birthplace of alpinism, and to do it with my two great friends and to be on skis. I mean, it's just like an epic combo. It was just amazing.
Skimo is romantic.
Welcome to Skimo Gold. This is the premier podcast and YouTube show for ski mountaineering interviews and race analysis. Thanks as always to our sponsor, Camp. You're going to hear on today's episode, one of our guests used a Camp backpack in the PDG Skimo adventure. I'm sure there was a lot of other Camp stuff out there as well. We'll tell you more about the brand later on. Big thanks to today's guests, Mike Hogan, Scott Richards, Dan Melish, three guys who I appreciate. Mike and Scott, especially, I know quite well. Scott has been a friend and coaching client for quite some time. It was a real pleasure to help him prepare for the PDG. These guys are going to tell you all about the adventure, chasing the cutoffs, battling the elements, skiing while connected to a rope through challenging terrain in the dark. What a wild adventure. The story is awesome. And what I really love is this is an adventure that took three friends, put them in a team in a big challenge, and deepened an already strong friendship. All right, folks, it's time to roll on Skimo Gold. Mike, Scott, Dan, welcome to Skimo Gold. It's great to be here with all of you guys today. I'd like to begin with a little nod to my neighbor, Rick Carroll. I can see Rick's house right there. Rick is 90. He is a very wise person. And one thing that Rick has told me about having an adventure is you get to experience it three times. The first time is when you plan it. The second time is when you do the adventure. And the third time is when you tell the story about the adventure. So here we are, guys. You are literally off the plane hours ago from Switzerland, the PDG Skimo race, the Patrouille, the Glaciers. I wish we had Katie Friend here to say it because she says it so much better than me. But that's what we're here to talk about. So, guys, thanks for coming. Dan, let's start with you. I know you have to jet in a minute here for reality work or something like that. I don't know why you have other things in your life other than Skimo Gold. But Dan, tell us real quick, introduce yourself and what do you want to tell us about this race, your preparation, what you learned, what you've experienced. Go for it, Dan. What do you want to share before you have to jump off here?
Hey, thanks, Travis. Dan Melish, P1, and I'm a classically trained football player, so the PDG was a great challenge for me. I brought onto the team late. I guess I'm technically an alternate, so training for it was kind of a crash course. And I would say the preparation for it was probably a blessing that I didn't know anything. There was just not a ton of information available. Usually you're YouTubing everything, Googling everything, and there just isn't a ton of training information to set your expectations for the preparation. So I was glad that I didn't know that there was a 1,500-foot booter in there and a double black diamond style off-piste downhill in the dark, and a Batman rappel also was just a huge surprise and delightful. It was really grateful to my team that they were just so solid. And when you have these ups and downs and roles in the night that classic to have Scott and Mike on board.
I love it, Dan. It sounds like you had sort of the ignorance is bliss approach to this. You said you were a late addition. When did you join the team? And a P1, I think that means patroller number one. Dan, I have to tell you, your teammates this morning told me that you were the MVP of this whole thing, the most valuable patroller, which obviously is huge. When did you join the team, Dan?
Yeah, where's that trophy? I let's see. It was about was it a little over a month prior to takeoff date, and my audition was getting a beer with Scott, and we had some adventures before, so I gave him my resume, and we did have some great training days up at Winter Park. But Travis, as you know, it's been a tough winter for training, so we were kind of out there in t-shirts and trying to mimic the do a simulation of what it's going to be like in the middle of the night, and roped up and everything. And so that was probably the biggest challenge was leading up to it, is trying to do a simulation of anything we might encounter there and any of the surprises that we might see. Yeah, really being roped up, going up and going down when there's a furious pace of Europeans that are trying to pass, and you need a wide berth, and then the downhill in crusty dark conditions was a pretty epic transition.
Oh man. And a month, I mean, that's not much planning time, whether it's training, logistics, work, life. I'm glad that you got that together. Prior to that, Dan, most of the winter, had you been skiing? Had you been ski touring? Had you been doing races or adventures? Had you been, running, biking, sunbathing there up in the Boulder, Colorado area? What were you up to like before you joined the team? You must have had some sort of fitness going on to be ready to hop in.
Yeah, with the season we've had, the latter, probably the sunbathing was probably the most relevant. It's just been so hard to train. But we did have some good outings up in Winter Park, and I go up to Granby Ranch quite a bit for some quick laps. And let's see, it was it was a lot of scrambling up in the Flatirons as well to get us some up and down vert.
Oh, nice. All right. The Flatiron Scramble, another little secret underground racing scene, even more obscure and niche than this word of Skimo. Well, Dan, thanks for joining us. I know you got to go back to reality, but thanks for sharing that. Congrats on the MVP award. I'm sure that the trophy will be in the mail. It's probably coming with those globe trophies, that the pros get from the World Cup. I think they ship yours out right after that. So, way to go.
Yeah, I didn't know that prior to this, so I didn't prepare a speech or anything. It was, and I'm trying to think what I might have earned that for, from the dizzying, just the deer in the headlights look that I had for most of the race. But
we're gonna discuss it after you get off, Dan.
Perfect.
So you can listen later.
Yeah, flesh that out. It was an epic adventure. These guys are amazing teammates. So yeah, huge. Appreciate the time, Travis, and good to see you guys. Carry on.
All right. Well, sounds good, Dan. Thanks for joining us. And happy trails. All right. Scott and Mike, on to you guys as Dan signs off. As planned, we can spend the rest of the time talking about Dan behind his back. But first, let's hear some intros from you guys, Scott and then Mike. Give us a brief, give us some background, personal, professional, skiing, adventuring, etc. What set you up to even think about going over there to Switzerland and doing this PDG? I looked it up. The stats I saw, something like 57 kilometers of distance, something like 4,300 meters of gain, which is that's a lot. That's what, over 12,000 feet of gain. Starts at night, goes through the night. It's a point to point. It's an epic adventure. It's based on Swiss military history going back to World War II. So this is, this is an epic, mythical, mystical, romantic sort of race with, athletes at the top of the sport. There's a bunch of recent Olympians who were out there, and the kind of people who are winning Pierre Armenta and World Cups and, all of that. Those people are doing this race as well with you guys and with 5,000 people. I couldn't believe that. There's 5,000 people in a Skimo race. So, all right, I'm going on and on. Scott, you first. Give us the intro and then pass it on to Mike.
Okay, Scott Richards, live in Louisville, Colorado, and always been intrigued by mountain adventures my whole life, climbing and skiing, and I've done a lot of fun events like the Grand Traverse and Power of Four with Mike and with Dan, and other just kind of do-it-yourself type adventures. As you know, Travis, I'm a client of yours and a friend of yours. Probably if we're going to stick with the fact that we're ordinary guys, you're probably your lowest performance on the scale, lowest performing client.
I don't know if
least,
I'd say that, Scott. I coach people all across the endurance spectrum.
least elite. And we endeavored to do this race 2 years ago, and we, it was with a different patrol one. Where Dan said he was an alternate. It was another friend of Mike and I's, and in 2024, the race, we were over there, we were ready to go. We thought we were ready to go, as well, we could talk about how the race was for us. And then the race got canceled. So it's always been kind of percolating. And for me, when it came up again, because it's every 2 years, the thought of, what is it, like almost 40 miles and 14,000 feet of gain, and in the Alps, when we decided to do it again this year, I started out probably at 50% horrified and 50% excited. And as we got closer, that ratio got better and better, leaning towards the excited side. And, like Dan said, we did a bunch of stuff in the Winter Park. We went up there, we had one, we all have busy jobs. Dan has 4 kids, so we were, weekend warrior or early morning, Friday mornings at Eldora when we could fit it in. And we even went to Winter Park one time at night with full packs and our uniforms, which is what I'm wearing right now, the U.S. and the Colorado flag.
This thing's, if you're an audio listener, check out the video. It's just like flannel. It looks like a flannel. I don't know if it's actually flannel. It's a plaid shirt. Maybe it's a functional. It's high tech. It's a high tech plaid. What do they call those? Snaps.
It's good looking and functional. It's a Stio shirt. Stio from,
that's right.
Yeah, we got a
Shout
nod
out
and
to
a
Stio.
semi
It's good stuff.
Sponsorship from Stio. So we our uniform consisted of these shirts, and we wore Stio Pinedale pants too. But we went up and did at night and did a full dress rehearsal, packs, roped together, headlamps, skiing up, skiing down. And I think that practice, it was hard in the race skiing up because we're going in and out of several teams, but the skiing down, it was not skiing down a blue run at Winter Park. It was skiing down a black run that's off piste, like out in the middle of nowhere. So I think our practice paid off. But yeah, I think this is like, this race for me, it was like a perfect combo. It pushed us big time. For me, it pushed me probably more than any event I've ever done. Well, not probably, definitely. And, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But the fact that we were in the Alps, like the birthplace of alpinism and to do it with my two great friends and to be on skis. I mean, it's like it's just like an epic combo. It was just amazing. Just amazing.
All right. Oh man, that's cool, Scott. I can see the smile on your face and the light in your eyes as you say that. Way to go, Mike. What should we know about you and your background and how you got ready for this event?
Sure. Well, I'm Mike Hogan. I'm same age as Scott. I'm 61. I have 3 children, Anna, Ben, and Liz. And Liz is actually coached by Travis and just had a big run out at the Cascade Waterfall 100K and finished second. So we were really proud of her and kind of watching that as we were in
Yeah.
Chamonix. My wife
Go
Karen
Liz.
is
Gorge Waterfalls.
Gorge Waterfalls. You're right.
Gorge
Yep.
Waterfalls 100K. Yeah, good race for Liz. Way to go.
Yeah, so I mean, I come from an active family. I chase my wife Karen around a lot, both cycling and ski touring and running and things like that. Professionally, I run Hogan Ski Mountaineering North America, so we handle all the distribution in North America. So I'm involved in the ski touring space. Pretty bad winter, by the way, both economically, and ski sales wise and weather wise in Colorado, but we won't dwell on that. We're looking forward to next season already. I
Yeah.
think my friend Dave Zink was the one that originally said, "Hey, let's do the PDG." So he was the original P1. Scott was P2 and I'm P3. And we Karen, my wife, is like the sorting hat from Harry Potter, and she says, she uses her superpowers and said, Dan, needs a good, wide berth to ski, and he can't, he should pick the line first, so he's P1. And Scott has the most, really the most time on the ropes and has the most alpine experience than all of us. And my husband, Mike, doesn't matter. So put him in the crack the whip position at P3. And so that's where I ended up. But so Dave, Zink really started this off a couple of years ago. As you mentioned earlier, we weren't able to do it 2 years ago. We ended up going just touring and coming home, and still had a great trip in Europe, but we weren't able to do the PDG. We got in again this year. We got in on the Tuesday evening start, which is there's 2 different starts. There's a Z1 and Z2 from Zermatt to Verbier that starts on Tuesday night and one again on Friday night. We ended up having a 24-hour delay in this race too, which you need to be prepared for too. So we found out, I think it was Monday night, and they said, "Hey, we're going to go for a Wednesday night start." So it was kind of a little bit of a curveball. I even Air Canada, my friends at Air Canada, lost my ski bag, and
Yeah.
my skis didn't arrive in
Classic.
in Geneva, and so I had to I
With a whole bunch of other stuff too. Like
yeah, I mean
everything you crammed in your ski bag.
Here's my list of things that I needed to get: skis, skins, poles, jacket, gloves, water bottles, ski harness, ski socks, emergency blanket, first aid kit, and mittens. So just heavier stuff. So that was my list. We walked into a ski shop,
So
and
everything
fortunately,
basically.
Dan had a spare pair of touring skis. They were Hogan skis, which I was happy about, but they were core carbon 89s. So they're a bit heavy for this kind of endeavor, twice as heavy as my Ultra 65s. But we dealt with it, and we got all the stuff we needed, and we just had, I think we had the most fun. We had a really great chemistry as a team. Scott and I voted Dan Melish as our most valuable patroller. And I think that was because, in any event, there's a lot of dynamics with 3 people on a team, and you
Yeah.
have these highs and lows. And I had some lows that I swear the only thing kept me going was chasing Scott and Dan, as that I didn't want to let my team down. And I was off the back chasing hard on at least 2 booters that I was in the hurt box, and getting to the top and having your teammates lift you up, and you even up. But Dan was the one that was really steady the whole time. And I know Scott had some highs and lows too, and both of us just said definitely Dan was the man.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
brief story about, me, uh, personally, professionally, and a little bit of a teaser into what happened at the PDG.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing that. So the P1, P2, P3, I know when you're roped up, you have to stay in that order, but in this race, are you roped up the whole time? Like, are you basically always in that same order, or is there also, some back and forth and so forth?
No, it's only, when you're roped up. I mean, they on your on your number, it does say delineate whether you're number 1, number 2, or number 3, but you don't have to stay in the order. It's just kind of to keep you as a group so they can check you into checkpoints. But skiing, yeah, Mike was right. His wife Karen, who's way smarter than any of us, um, she she delineated who was going to go in what order, and she had her reasons, and we
Mm,
just said, all right, whatever you say, Karen." So it was the being roped together. Dan was in front, I was in the middle, and Mike was in the back. And it was pretty
nice.
interesting because it was a 3,000-foot climb. So we were roped up for 3,000 feet skinning, and Scott and Dan even had ski crampons on for a lot of that period. And then a 2,000-foot descent. So, and the descent was in some pretty, not very favorable conditions, broken crust, bumps,
Yeah.
steep, dark. And, you've got to ski together to keep that rope. Both Scott and I stowed our poles, and we were on our skis, obviously, but you stow your poles and really use your hands just to manage the slack in the rope. And
Mm,
so it's an art form that we thought we practiced, we thought we we're ready for it, but in some pretty, it's not like skiing down a groomer, roped up. You're skiing in some, double black terrain with, really bad conditions. And sometimes you can turn and your partner can't, and you've got to make sure
yeah.
that you have enough slack to be able to accommodate that, and then take it back up so you don't ski over it. I mean, I was P3, and I think I skied over the rope at least 2 times and just had to, yell up front, "Hold up, hold up. I'm not like, you're going to spin me around in a second. So hang on." And just And get it
Mm,
everything was, sorted yeah,
mm,
again.
mm.
It was loud, and there, because the ice, like the glacial ice skiing, and there were other people around. And so, but a couple of times, one of us had to yell, "Stop," because it was about to become a complete clusterfuck. But
Yeah.
we managed. I don't think anybody crashed, and but it was definitely intense skiing down roped up.
Man,
And
that
like
that
Dan
sounds
mentioned
hard.
earlier, I mean, there's teams around you everywhere, so you're not only managing just your own space, but the course was marked, because you're coming down a glacier and they don't want you skiing outside the safe bounds that they have found. You are roped up, but there's crevasses around there. And so
Yeah.
you're skiing in between or trying to stay as close to these um, pole markers that they had put out there, so you don't end up in a crevasse somewhere.
Yeah. Wow. What time, I know it starts at night. What time was it that it started, and how long did it take you guys?
They stagger people in groups of people.
Okay.
So there's 4 categories in each wave, or like Z1 has 4 categories and Z2 has 4 categories. It's military, Swiss military, other military, civilians that have a guide. So two people with a third guide, and civilians without a
Mm,
guide. And so the first wave starts at 10 p.m. We were in the second wave that starts at 10:45. And then I think they went all the way till what, Mike? Like 1 o'clock or 1:15, maybe something like that. Something, yeah, something like that. And so the faster people start later.
mm. Oh, wow. That's
So
that's interesting because then
that.
you got the fast people blowing through
Oh yeah,
the field. That's yeah, that's dynamic, I guess to say the
yeah,
least.
yeah, totally, totally.
And how long did it take you guys?
16 hours.
16.
16
Cool.
hours and
Nice.
4 minutes.
Yeah, so that's a real ultra endurance event. I mean, 16 hours is a long time to do anything. You're probably awake all day long. You start at almost 11 p.m. You do this for 16 hours, then it's mid-morning on the next day. You haven't slept. It's epic. And I was looking
Yeah.
at the winners. You guys probably saw it. Team France won with Gachet, Bonmardion, and Eki. Again, these guys are, super pro Skimo athletes. 5 hours and 43 minutes. And
Which
then
I
the
can't
Swiss were.
even yeah,
No,
I
it's
mean, I
it's
can't
amazing,
even
huh?
get my literally can't even get my head around that, Travis. I can't I like I my brain immediately goes, "That can't be true. There's no way." It's
And then
it's
first
it's
place women's new
something.
new record, 7 hours and 4 minutes. And that again, these are athletes we know. Gachet Molleret, Margot Ravinel was second, and then Celia Perrier Passé was the third member. So another French team getting the win. But I'd love to hear more about the ups and downs, and especially the lows that you two experience. Because I think, you look at these elite athletes taking 5 to 7 hours, like it's hard, and they go through lows, but they're still really pushing hard, and they're probably suffering in the moment. We've all been there. It's a whole different deal when you're out there for 16 hours, and it's less familiar. You're less prepared. Usually it gets harder and harder as you go, in these lows. I mean, you guys have both, you've been athletes for decades and decades. You've done lots of stuff at high levels, the Leadville 100 mountain bike and climbing Denali and, all this kind of stuff. And it sounds like this was hard. You had to dig deep. So like, Mike, when you said those lows, like on that booter, what is it? Is it stomach? Is it outlook? Is it legs? Is it, what was going on for you there? And then Scott, tell us about one of your lows after that.
My demise started at the halfway point at Arola. So just at sunrise, we came into this aid station and all they had was sparkling water, a Coke, and black tea. And the black
Huh.
tea I couldn't drink. The sparkling water, it just was impossible to really get hydrated. So I
Yeah.
started not drinking as much as I should have been drinking, and
Huh.
we hit the col de Reed Maten, which is the second big climb after Arola. Beginning part of the day, sun's just coming up, and we hit the top of this climb, and I just started cramping, Travis, and
Huh.
I could not lift my legs. So, you're
Oh,
using your
geez.
poles, you're using your upper body as much as possible because my upper body wasn't cramping. My lower body was cramping, just trying to throw and you're going to this dirt booter. So
Uh-huh.
it was a scooter, then it turned to dirt. And then the top of the Reed Mountain was this ridiculous couloir fixed rope descent. So imagine a
Oh.
descent the length of probably the second flat iron, probably 800 feet. A fixed rope on the right hand side, a fixed rope on the left hand side, probably 8 meters wide or so. And you pick a line because there's people everywhere. I picked the right line because I was watching Dan, and Dan had fallen very quickly. He'd saved himself on the rope, thankfully. But we followed the same line down, and even going down, I was kind of straight legging it because
Oh,
I
yeah.
was peg legging it because I was just cramping and I didn't have enough hydration. And it wasn't until we hit this sort of a rogue aid station that the Swiss Army guys were able to give us extra water bottles and extra water, and I got hydrated and I slowly got better from there. But that was a really really tough couple of hours that I went through.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. And then did you slowly, as you rehydrated, did you come back a little bit in terms of functionality, et
I
cetera?
did. I could
Yeah.
speak in complete sentences. I could follow my teammates along well, and we could smile occasionally. And you start getting closer and closer to Verbier, and there's more and more people out on the course too. And the last couple of climbs, and particularly when we hit the last checkpoint, and we had made beaten the cutoff. Um, and I'll let Scott tell that story, but we were chasing cutoffs all day long. But
Mm.
when I finally got to, Dan and Scott were waiting me at the top of this booter, and Scott says, I was like, why do you guys have your helmets off?
They're like, we're done. We just passed the last checkpoint. We're good. And he goes, we can chill. We can take it easy and we can roll in. Why don't we just sit here for a while and hang out and eat some food and look at how beautiful it is. And we did. We stayed there for probably 15 minutes and just hung out, put on sunscreen. We took pictures. We talked to people and we just had a blast. But I was really back from the dead after that one.
Yeah, the look on Mike's face.
I'm glad you came back.
The look of relief on Mike's face when he comes over the top of this booter and he's kind of straight legging it still because of his cramps. And he was like, what are you guys doing? Like, cause why do you have your helmets off? Why are you just hanging out? And I said, that was it. We've got like 4 hours to finish and we only have a little ways to go and relatively. And Mike just went, really? Really? And so it was good. It was definitely a relief.
Excellent. How about your lows, Scott? What were those associated with?
Well, I'll speak for the team a bit too. We, when you start on foot. So the vast majority of people wore running shoes and you have 3 hours to get to a place called Stonebiel.
Yeah.
Stonebiel. It is 3 hours from whenever you started to get to this spot. And then you take off your running shoes.
Was?
12K in.
12K.
And, yeah.
Okay.
12K.
Yep.
12K, maybe. Yeah. All uphill. And so, you get your big packs, get all your water. And, I don't think we were going slow, but we weren't certainly going as fast as we could. We just kind of had in our heads that, we'll be there in 3 hours, no problem. And we weren't really watching. And we get there. Well, we get there, we change into our skis, and then you start skiing up. And it's actually the place you have to get in 3 hours is where you rope up. And so you start on foot, then you rope up. You start on foot, you ski up and you get to a certain spot and then you have to rope up. You have to be there in 3 hours. And we get there and I pull out the rope and toss those guys their ends. And a military dude came over and this is the first checkpoint. And he said, hey, you guys need to hurry. You have less than 3 minutes to leave this checkpoint. And we went, what? And he goes, yeah, you have 2 minutes, right? And so it was a fire drill. We're tying into the rope. It's a 30-meter rope, and they're picking up our rope and they're pushing us. They're like, go, go, go. You got to get to like that point. And so turns out we made it through that checkpoint 1 of 5 with like a minute, 20 seconds to spare.
A minute 7.
Oh man.
Minute 7. So as per a low, but also motivating factor for all 3 of us, it was like, holy shit, we need to hurry. So then the rest of the race until we got to the top of Rosa Blanche, where we just talked about, we were in a panicked hurry. So we weren't eating as much as we should or drinking. We had, we subsequently hit every single checkpoint with less than 5 minutes to go.
Wow.
So every time we passed through one, it was, are we going to make it to the next one? And we need to put out as much effort as possible, because if we don't and we miss it, then we're going to regret not putting out full effort. So it was just head down. I think we were in the Alps, Travis. I think it was beautiful. I don't know. I'm sure I've seen some pictures on Instagram that look amazing. But we just had to go, 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 go. So I think for me, my low was right before Mike's. We made it up the 7,000. First climb is 7,000 feet. And we made it down to Arola with, again, 5 minutes to spare. And we had to immediately, we had these visions of Arola as this amazing aid station with charcuterie boards and like hot tea and cocoa and pretty Swiss women like passing out, cheese and crackers and chocolates. And they had disgusting, fizzy water and black tea. So I filled up one water bottle I mixed in tailwind into the black tea and into the soda water, and
Oh,
in two
gross.
different. It was disgusting, but
I'm sure.
it was all I had, right? And so,
Yeah.
and you immediately start out going up the first time you're on piste. And we use piste because we're pretty much European at this point. Going up the piste, and it was really steep. You know, it was almost like the head wall going up Highlands in the Par 4, and knowing that we were so far behind and that it was, you know, we had to push so hard. That was my low. I was like, Dan and Mike took off, and I was just in the hole for that. What was great though is what happens in these races. I was there and I was making myself drink my tea and my fizzy water and choke down some chewies. And about halfway up that, I kind of came alive, and suddenly I had, you know, you go back and forth as a team. Suddenly I had the most energy of the team and was like leading the charge. And so I think it's really important to remember for me in these races, just like as in life too, you have lows, but they don't last forever. And you have highs, they don't last forever either. But you really need to just say, you know, I mean, I got to a point in some point where I was like, all I got to do is make it to the next checkpoint. And between then, I just got to make it to that flag. I just got to power hard to this next flag. And I'd make it and go, sweet, I did it. And then I'd go to the next flag, right? And we did that for 16 hours.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it, guys. I'm so proud of you. I love the racing against cutoffs. I've done it a handful of times, and it is the most competitive atmosphere. You know, if you're racing to win, like all you just have your focus on that finish line, and when you're racing cutoffs, it's like you got a finish line and you make it, and then you got another finish line, and like every single time you might literally be like sprinting to make the cutoff, and it just it's quite an experience. So I'm glad you guys got to do it.
I was going to say there's one. Like there's an infamous part of the race. There's many, but there's this really big climb called the Rosa Blanche. And it was our last, like Mike said, our last checkpoint. And we had miraculously made all the checkpoints so far by a couple minutes. And I'll never forget this military guy. I said, is this our last checkpoint or is the next one? And he goes, oh, it's the next one. I said, what do we got to do? And, you know, they were, again, rushing us out of the aid station or and this was an aid station that was supposed to have water and stuff, but they gave us a little bit of water. And he said, well, you know, in his French accent, his Swiss accent, you leave here, which you have to do right now. And then you have a 450 meter ski up, you know, which is like 1,500 feet. And then after that, you have a 450 meter booter. And then you'll be at the top. And you need to go now. And it took like a different kind of mindset to just go, okay, you know, we just had to get on our horses and ride, right? It's like, we got this task in front of us. There's nothing we can do about it. We just have to go. And it was daunting yet inspiring too. It was kind of cool. Anyway.
Thanks to Camp for supporting the Skimo Gold podcast. I've been using Camp products for almost 2 decades now. Ski mountaineering, adventure racing, trail running, and multi-sport adventures. I love the packs. Been using them for Skimo for a long time. Probably my favorite current Camp pack is the Outback 20. Camp packs have all the features you need and none of the junk that you don't. Check them out. Camp. Thanks again for supporting the podcast, guys. How about the gear? And Mike, maybe you can take this one. As you said, you've been the distributor for Hogan skis for a few years now. They're great skis. They're the skis I ski on most of the time, you know, training or racing. I use the quote race skis, the super light 65 underfoot. I also have some 79 underfoot that I really like that are still kind of small, but super light and a bit of an in-between. Mike, what ski, you lost your stuff. You ended up using all borrowed stuff. What ski were you planning on using for this event, Mike? And are most people out there on, the small 65 underfoot race skis, or are there a variety? What should we know about the gear? You mentioned ski crampons. Your teammates had them. It sounds like yours probably got lost.
Yep.
What else should we know gear wise?
I mean, you're in Europe and you're in a Skimo race, and it was 98% race skis. So 98% of the skis were 65 underfoot. I had an 89 underfoot, basically all mountain ski with rental bindings on them. I used, Scarpa Aliens, which are a nice light boot, but not a super light race boot. Anyway, but yeah, everyone was pretty raced out. I mean, we were, in our Pinedale pants and our, high-tech plaid shirts. We were not in the, you might like this, Travis. We've learned that in France or actually in Switzerland, there's a nickname for the, little Skimo skiers that ski up, on piste, and ski runners that are moving up very fast versus tourers. And most tours call them their colonne pipette, which translates to hot pants and a water bottle. And so if you had the hot pants and a water bottle, that's the typical type of person that you saw, was somebody in a Skimo race suit, very small Skimo race packs. I mean, I used a camp Ski Raptor 30-liter pack because, I brought my, puffy, I brought some mittens, I bring extra pair of overpants and, a lot of stuff that, most of the racers do not keep with them during the race. I did appreciate having an 89 underfoot ski at times. I was like, wow, this is kind of nice skiing. And Scott and Dan are on their, little skinny carbon toothpicks, the Ultra 65s. And but I was quite comfortable on the 89s that had just been tuned. So I was in good shape on the descents.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
Full on race gear.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Euro style in the Euro race. I mean, I guess that's the way to do it. And that is with compliments to all of our European listeners, of course. And Scott, flipping it to you, how about nutrition? You and I talked a little bit ahead of the race. We talked about some, rough goals for grams of carbohydrates and milligrams of sodium per hour. I think we kind of said, like, drink a lot. Like you can't carry enough water for the whole way. You're going to have to resupply. It turns out some of the water resupplies didn't actually have water. That makes it challenging. Scott, any takeaways on fueling or things that, worked or didn't work for you out there?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tailwind. So I used, I tried to drink 500 liters, which typically had like a scoop and a half of Tailwind in it, each 500 milliliter bottle, squeezy bottle. And that was great. And that's, I think for me, that's just such easy. Sometimes I would put 2 scoops in. It's just easy nutrition. It gives you electrolytes, carbs, it gives you calories. And it's just so easy when you're skiing, your hands are occupied and you're totally occupied. So it's really hard to reach in a pocket, open up a packet of Chewies or a bar or even a goo and eat it because we were in variable terrain. So it was hard to do that. So I would, what I tried to do was a bottle and a thing like a bag of Chewies or something every hour. And I had a combination of the Tailwind that's just like the caffeinated powder stuff, flavored, and they have that high carb one as well. And those were great. And I think, those in hindsight, those saved me, even doing the sparkling water and the tea, just being able to get down some calories and keep the electrolytes flowing, I think was beneficial. But I was trying to do, and I did a pretty good job the first 6 hours. I did have one bottle explode in my face. So I was down one bottle, but it took us like 6 hours, Mike, to get to Arola. And I probably did five 500 milliliter bottles during that time that all had tailwind in them.
Nice.
And then
Cool.
as
Good.
much as, when
Good job.
if we would stop, I would just try to choke down a bunch of chewies. So
Yeah. Nice.
that
Mike,
worked.
anything that worked or didn't work for you in terms of, well, we already heard, some dehydration. Were
Yeah,
there any
no, I
things
mean, I
that
was
did work or what you were
definitely
putting in your body?
definitely dehydrated because I didn't bring enough to accommodate for an aid station not having stuff. But I brought a thermos, and I typically bring miso soup like on the Grand Traverse. And I feel like in the middle of the
Mhm.
night, I need a good dose of sodium, and warm liquids taste so good. So when
Oh,
we
yeah.
were, probably 3 in the morning, I put down this soup broth that I had brought along, and it was 500 ml of that, and then I had 4 squeezy bottles, of which I had drank 3, and I had lost a fourth one, was hidden somewhere in my pack that I found at the end of the race. So I had it with me, but and it
Yeah.
probably would have helped, but probably not that much. But yeah, nutrition is really hard, particularly at night and particularly when it's cold. And it was really, it was in the teens with a light wind up on Tete Blanche, and the very first big, humongous climb. And we stopped to put on, puffy jackets, heavy mittens, just to try to stay warm and comfortable through that section. And we were glad we did. But yeah, the warm liquids, I think, really tend to help me.
And I
Yeah.
will say that, the Swiss military does such an amazing job. I mean, I don't know how many were out there and like just organizing us in Zermatt and being there waiting for us in Verbier and then along the course, but there probably was a lot more available in Arola and at the bottom of Rosa Blanche for participants. It was just we were in the back of the pack, and so I think we
Yeah.
just got the dregs.
Stuff runs out.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the other thing about the Swiss military too, Scott, is I did the Cape Epic in South Africa mountain bike race 3 times, and I was amazed of like how they covered the race with helicopters, and there was
yeah.
always
Mm.
a helicopter following the lead of the race, and they televised from the top of it. But in the PDG, there had to be at least 8 to 10 different choppers commissioned because they were running up and down the course, and there was probably a chopper at every aid station. And they were patrolling from the air as we were patrolling from the snow. But it was amazing to see the Swiss military presence. And they were just
Yeah.
so organized and so helpful. I was really impressed.
Oh, wow. That's cool. When I think Switzerland, I just think precision, trains that are on time and everything's clean and, maybe it's expensive, but that's because it works. And you know, kind of neat to have that experience during a race. Well,
Yeah,
guys,
I
way to
got the
go.
stats.
Way to get it done.
There were 900 military personnel in the race and
Oh, wow.
300 tons of material to help, which is, I mean, that's huge.
300 tons.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah. You
So
need a military to do anything with that mass of anything.
yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, the way to get it done, guys. I'm so glad. I remember talking to you, Scott. I can remember I was standing in my garage. I was messing with my bike when I talked to you 2 years ago, and you were over there, and the race had been canceled, and that was, I mean, it was what it was. But I'm so glad that you got to go back and make it happen. So way to go. As we wrap up, did you guys do as terms of the overall experience any other tourism or things that you got to see? Or Scott, I saw in Training Peaks, it looks like you rented a bike and rode around Lake Geneva. What else were you guys up to?
Yeah, well, we had, when it got delayed by a day, by 24 hours, we went skiing. Dan and I both have icon passes, and Mike got a ticket, and we went up we went to the Zermatt ski area, all the way to the tippy top on the gondola, and then it was all sunny up there. We were above the clouds, and then we actually skied into Italy, and had delicious sandwiches and beers at this perch. I mean, it was one of my best
Awesome.
ski days ever. And
Nice.
Mike, it was Mike's first time ever riding on a ski lift, so it was really great to introduce him to. He was nervous about the gondola. We had to tell him where to sit, and then it was okay. But
Yep.
we're hoping that he'll do more lift skiing with us next year. And then when we got to Geneva, Mike organized e-bikes for us, and he mapped out like a route, and we biked up the side of Lake Geneva, and then took a ferry across to the other side, and biked down, and we took a couple swims in Lake Geneva along the way. It was great. I mean, I freaking love Switzerland. I was unsuccessful in finding a Swiss wife while we were there, but I'm not averse to trying again. So, because I want to move there.
Usually it takes like at least 2 weeks, I've heard.
Yeah, I needed more time.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Mike, any takeaways from the travel for you?
No, I think, like Scott said, we were very lucky to have such good chemistry. We're all dads, we're all athletes, we're all adventurers, and we're all from Louisville. And we like to spend time with one another, and that's important. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be on a team of 3 with, somebody that you weren't really close with, because, everybody has their ups and downs, and you end up carrying each other quite often. And, we had fun preparing. We had fun, 16 hours of fun during the race. And we were able to do some really great adventures, like skiing over to Italy and having, lunch and skiing back, and the tour, bike tour, around Lake Geneva was a lot of fun as well. And I think, this is one of those races that the whole experience, if you ask me like right away, would you go do it again? I'd say yes, in a heartbeat. And a lot of times where races are that hard, you have to think about it for a while. Like, do I really want to suffer that badly again and still call it fun? This is one that it was super fun. I mean, I've got my Patrouille de Glaciers fondue. I mean, there's military chocolate rations. They gave us, wine. Yep. So we have PDG edition wine, rhubarb syrup that they, hooked us up with, the PDG syrup. So we got a lot of wonderful takeaways. We're gonna do some raclette. Swiss is famous for raclette, and have a fondue night so we can talk about the whole thing. We want to catch up with our friend Jamie Kilcoyne and his team, and their escapades and experience that we haven't been able to debrief with them. So I'm looking forward to that next.
Nice. I love that you're celebrating. Shout out to Jamie. Great job, buddy. And final question, guys, is so you had the performance outcome. You stayed ahead of the cutoffs and you got the job done. That's a fantastic performance outcome. My final question is how about feeling based outcomes? And this is something Scott and I have talked a lot about. Scott's brother, Chip, is a mindset expert based in Australia, also a skiing aficionado. But anyway, Chip has taught us a lot about this idea of, in addition to performance outcomes, let's plan for and cultivate and seek feeling-based outcomes. What are the feelings that we hope to, get from an experience and bring to an experience? And this is something we've been exploring on Skimo Gold. Even a lot of the Olympians, in addition to seeking the podium and these, highest of high performance goals, they also have objectives that are based in adventure or community or connection. Cam Smith has talked about this. Max Drione's talked about it. So final question, guys, for you, what are the feelings, that you took away that you'll cherish from the PDG this year? You want to go? Let's go, Scott, and then Mike.
That's such a great question, Travis. I think, off the cuff, you heard Mike say it a bunch of times. I don't know if I said the word a bunch of times too, but I was talking to one of my brothers, I don't know whether it was Chip or Steve, beforehand, and I said, my goal for this trip is for it to be fun and to like experience joy, right? Like that's what I want. And even though the race was really hard, physically, and it fit that mold of it doesn't have to be fun to be fun. It was, we had so much fun leading up to it. I mean, we were in a constant state of laughing and joking around, like right up to where we started. And even when we're like in the depths and you're breathing so hard you can't even talk, if you could talk for a moment, somebody would say something funny, right? We'd like joke about something. And even like during the race, which was awesome. And so I really wanted to have that feeling of fun and joy, and for the three of us to come back, to like really deepen our friendship and our connection. And it was a complete success with those feelings. And so I feel really, really proud of our effort. And I feel really great about my deepening friendship with these guys, and that we had this amazing experience, and that we kept it fun and joyous and positive. And so those are the feelings that are overriding for me.
Yeah, I would echo the same thing, Scott. We won. Like, we won that race in terms of how much fun we had, and that was what our goal was going into it. We didn't really care that. I mean, I didn't want to get cut off and sent back and not finish. I wanted to finish, and so finishing was winning. But the way that we finished, and finishing together, and all the highs and lows mixed in with just stunning beauty, all throughout, and a very difficult challenge, thrown at you. I feel like we won the gold in that one for sure.
Oh
Well
man,
put.
thanks for sharing that, guys. I feel and see so much team and friendship between you guys and also Dan, and like that's the stuff of life. And I think it's awesome that you embarked upon a challenge full of adversity. You did it by choice, and it deepened that team and friendship. And what's magical is that also creates the lasting team and friendship, as all of us inevitably face adversity in life that's not by choice, and you've strengthened that base, and you've done it intentionally. I think it's a great example. So thanks for sharing the story with us, guys.
You bet. Thanks,
Of
Travis.
course. Thanks for asking the great questions, Travis, and listening to our story.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. All right. Anywhere people should find you guys, Mike? I know it's mostly Hogan skiing. Mike, remind us, what's the best website, Instagram, etc., if they want to connect with you? Mike knows everything about skis and bindings. He is the most responsive person. If you have questions about gear or adjustments or whatever, Mike, what's the best way to find you with that stuff?
We're in about 26 shops around the U.S., and you can find us at hoganskimountaineering.com. Instagram is a little more challenging, Hogan_ski_USA. That's Instagram, but yeah, that's where you can find us.
And if you search Hogan on online or Instagram, it'll probably come up. Scott, anywhere people should find you online or in real life?
Well, I'm
At the
just a
Rock Gym?
regular dude, private wealth advisor at Northwestern Mutual. You could probably find me there, and I guess I'm on Instagram, T Scott Richards. But that's
And at
All right.
Crystal Springs.
And at Crystal Springs, any sunny afternoon, I'll be there having a beer. And if come on by, and I'll buy you a beer.
Okay. Or the rock gym. Scott is in
Yeah,
the
or the
rock climbing
Spots
gym
climbing gym too.
a
Yeah.
lot. He'll probably be there most times. Probably belaying Lynn Hill would be my guess. All right, guys. Well, thanks a ton. Sure appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Great to
Yep.
speak with you.
Thanks, Travis. Good to see you, Scott. Take care.
Yep.
Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you guys too.
Hey, folks, thanks as always for listening to Skimo Gold. This is the premier podcast and YouTube show for ski mountaineering interviews and race analysis. Thanks always to Camp for supporting the show. Thanks, listeners, for being a part of this journey. Really appreciate you being along. Appreciate you sharing these episodes and sending us feedback whenever you can. Thanks again to today's guests, Dan, Scott, and Mike. Guys, that was awesome. Really appreciate your time, and it was fantastic to celebrate with you. All right, folks, time to sign off here. We're going to take a little bit of break in May, and we'll be coming back to you in June. All right, catch you next time on Skimo Gold.